Just so you guys have an idea of what's going to happen, we're going to do a little workshop with Roger. We're going to talk about casting, what that is, what that means, and then actors will file out. You're going to be given scripts. You guys are going to go in partners, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, etc. We get this? Awesome. Filmmakers stay in here. Roger's going to go over those audition packets with you after the actors leave. This is Roger Del Pozo.
Hi guys.
You guys may know him. He's the assistant director of admissions, also a very well-known casting director. He's been doing this for about 10 years and is just brilliant.
Oh, that's a lot of pressure.
Over to you, sir.
So like Lindy said, some of you might see me at the school. I'm the assistant director of admissions. I work primarily with the acting students, and in addition to that, I've been a casting director in New York for the last 10 years. I've worked primarily on television commercials. I've probably done about 1,000 television commercials in my time as a casting director, but I've also done plays, films, music videos, video games, industrials, voiceovers, basically anything you can put an actor in to work at one point or another. I've probably been involved a little bit in that casting process. But like I said, primarily television commercials. But the reality is that the process of casting something is not that different when you're doing commercials, or you're doing films, or you're doing television, or you're doing theater. Sometimes the script is going to be different. For example, a lot of commercials I worked on, there was no script. So that presents certain problems when you're casting. We'll go over a little bit of that tonight. And sometimes you would have something prepared in advance that you would bring in, like a monologue, something along those lines. More often than not, you don't though. More often than not, you're just given a script, and it usually is fairly generic for the actors, and your job as the actor is to kind of bring your personality or whatever is kind of interesting and unique and special and fun, theoretically, about you to that script. And I think the job of the director watching the process is really to use this as an experiment. I think what happens, some of you probably have experienced casting your own short films, or Am I right? Some of you kind of have experience doing it. Some of you might have experience like casting something where your friends are in it, or casting something in a school where, you know, a lot of the students I deal with are students that maybe were acting when they were in high school. So they would go and audition for like the school play. But the difference is when you audition for the school play in high school, your teachers know you. Everyone knows you. And you know how you kind of know who's going to get the roles anyway. So it really is, it isn't a strict casting process in the way that we do it in the professional world, which is much different. Generally, you're not going to know the people that you are auditioning. Sometimes you might, sometimes you don't. But even more often than not, what I've found is the directors don't really know what they want. And the actors don't know what the director wants, and the director doesn't know what he wants the actor to do, and the casting director isn't sure what either of them wants to do, so everyone is kind of fumbling through the process. So what I encourage the directors to do is to look at casting as an experiment, as this is part of the process that you should be very open to, because sometimes, actually more often than not, the best things that arise out of a casting session are usually something that you didn't expect. For the most part, some of you might write your own scripts. Some of the directors might write their own scripts. Some might be working with different scripts. And you might think that you have a very clear idea about what you want. But as you know, that can change. And I think the process of casting is something that you should be really open to having that change. Because for the most part, casting is the first time that you're going to see that script read by actors, worked out by actors, or that scenario worked out by actors. So what you thought in your head was going to be a really interesting thing when you were writing it might change when you're in the casting process, and that happens very often. And for the actors, what I encourage actors to do in the casting process is to not try and guess what we want you to do, the casting director or the director or the writer. Instead, I think the actors should be coming in making very strong choices when they come into the casting process, and let us come to you. You might have a better interpretation of this script than I think. I hope you do, because you're an actor. And you might come with something that I wasn't anticipating. And that is really going to be what's more interesting. Has anyone had any experiences like that when they're casting something? Like, you might think you want something, but then you'll see someone who does it better, or does it different, or does something that you didn't expect. And you as the actor, that's going to help you when you get out in the professional world. Because generally, actors hate to hear this, but I say this all the time, you're probably not going to get the part when you audition for something. Just in general, those are the odds. If you're out in the professional world and you had a great year as an actor, you booked 10 professional jobs as an actor in that year, which would be an extraordinary year for an actor. You probably auditioned 300, 400 times to get that. And that's a very high ratio. So most of the time you're not going to get the job that you're going for. So I don't say that to be cynical. I say that to kind of liberate you as the actor to use this as a process to kind of show us what you got, show us your personality, take risks, do something exciting, because you're probably not going to get it anyway. So you might as well take a risk. Because if you do nothing, if you come in and just wait for someone to tell you what to do at an audition, it's going to be a very middle-of-the-road, kind of milquetoast, adequate audition. And adequate doesn't really get the job. You have to be better. You have to enhance the material, be better than the material, elevate it. That's what your job as the actor is. And I think you're part of the process is you come in, you're very nervous, you have expectation, you're looking to get the job. So you come in and you start to audition very poorly because you're nervous, you're desperate. I said this, and Lindy's heard me say this before, but you ever notice in your life when you're single and when you're in a relationship? When you're in a relationship, I always think you're more attractive to other people. You know what I mean? Like, you ever have someone flirt with you and it's usually because you have someone else, because you're not projecting desperation. It's not like I need you to like me, right? You already have it. And it's funny, but it's true when you think about actors. They come into the audition like, I need a girlfriend. I need someone. And the reality is the actors that audition really well look at the audition as the girlfriend. So I already have it. The audition is the opportunity to act. It's not a means to an end to get the job. It's the process of auditioning is you as an actor having that 5 minutes to show us what you do, show us that you're an actor. And if you approach that as the end goal, just giving a good audition rather than I'm trying to get the part, you're going to be more relaxed, be more natural, be more of yourself. You're going to expose more of yourself, which is what we want to see. And since you're probably not going to get it anyway, you might as well do that. And I say that to be positive to you guys, because your job as an actor is not going to be to act. I wish it was. And when you're in school, your job as an actor is to act and to study acting, but your job in the professional world is going to be to audition. Acting is going to be the kind of gravy on top. So approach the audition as the performance. That's when you have a chance to perform. The other, I think it was funny. You guys, I'm sure some of you went to go see Kevin Spacey talk about it, and he stole so many of my lines. It was funny. But he's totally right about the process is that auditioning, and he talked about this a little bit, and it's completely true. Auditioning is an opportunity to establish a relationship with people that will possibly hire you in the future. What I say to actors is, when you audition for me, when I'm casting a project and you audition for me, you don't audition for that project. You're auditioning for every single project that I will ever cast or have anything to do with from that moment on. Not just that individual project. So if you go into an audition like this, I have to get this job, and then you walk out like, oh, I wasn't going to get it anyway, I blew the audition, you're already putting yourself 5 steps back. Because it really does happen where I'm like, Chris, he was great, he came in, he gave a great audition, he's not right for this project, but I'm going to file that away if he gives a really good audition. And 2 years down the line, when I'm casting something that Chris might be absolutely right for, I'm going to remember that he came in and gave a very imaginative audition, even though he didn't get the part. And compound that by 100-fold, because when you're auditioning kind of in the, there's 8 million actors in New York, I feel like. There's like 9 million people in New York, 8 million actors. But the amount of people that are actually working professionally in this business is much, 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 much smaller. So if you get into that circle of people that's auditioning often, I might see you 20 times before you get cast in anything. 30 times. And that doesn't mean I don't like you. It just means there's a lot of good actors. And there's a lot of variables that would prevent you from getting cast. But you still have to keep showing up, giving the best audition that you possibly can, because that one thing is going to click. And then we're going to say, oh, remember that guy who gave that great audition. You know, and then on the filmmaker's side, what I would caution you in terms of casting in general, when you get out and you're seeing a lot of actors at a time, is just to be really open to the process. The best directors that I've worked with, I've worked with some very extraordinarily successful directors, and the best ones don't come in with their mind kind of blocked off as to what this part of the process is. They come in wanting to experiment, wanting to see what actors do, and they love actors, and they approach the material as something that is in flux. It can change based on the actors that come in. And those I think are the best directors, because they allow you to kind of, the actors to be an artist and to show them something that they didn't initially see. Right? And I think those are the people that work very effectively. Just a really quick anecdote. You might have heard this before, because I've said this before, but you know the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall? Mm-hmm. You know Russell Brand? Mm-hmm. So Russell, when Jason Segel, he wrote Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and he was the star of the movie, and he was working with the director when they were casting the project, right? And the part that Russell Brand ended up playing was originally written in Jason Segel's mind to be like a Hugh Grant type. You know who Hugh Grant is? Very different than Russell Brand, right? So they wanted like this kind of upper crust writer, like pompous upper crust British writer. So they brought in every single British actor that they could possibly see, and everyone was coming in doing their best like bumbling Hugh Grant thing, and they weren't finding it. They were like, this isn't working, we don't like this. And then they brought in every American actor to do their best kind of bumbling Hugh Grant British writer thing, and it just wasn't clicking for them. And then, because they had seen every British actor in America and had seen all the like hot up and coming like 20-something-year-old American actors, they started to get it to people that they might not necessarily have seen in the first round of casting. And Russell Brand, although he was very famous in England, really was kind of an unknown quantity here. People didn't know him. And he got an audition. He's British. He got an audition. But rather than going in and trying to be Hugh Grant type, Russell Brand came in like Russell Brand, with like his shirt open, with like his silver chains, leather pants, his hair all teased out, mascara on, and they're like, who the fuck is this clown? And then he comes in, and on top of that, he says to the director and the writer, he's like, oh, sorry, mates, I haven't even read the script, man. It was, it's a mess. My agent didn't get it to me. They're like, who is this clown walking into this audition? He says he didn't even read the script. He's completely unprepared, completely wrong for this part. And then he starts to read it. And all of a sudden, Jason Segel and the director are like, holy shit, we thought we wanted a Hugh Grant type. But this guy came in, and if you know the movie, he like steals the lead guy's girlfriend, and he's like, what better guy, what more intimidating guy than this like rock star kind of guy, the arrogant, pompous guy to come in and steal the girlfriend. Forget the Hugh Grant type, we want this guy. They rewrote the whole script based around Russell Brand, and then Russell Brand then got kind of a sequel playing the exact same character, a movie written all about him, and that's from casting. That was from a casting experiment, from him coming in. So, and that happens very often. That kind of thing happens very often, where you think you want something, you end up going with something completely different because something happened in the casting process that changed your mind about what you want. So as a filmmaker, you should be very fluid in the process and very open to what you're seeing, because someone might give you something better than what you thought. And if you're a good writer or a good filmmaker, you're not going to have an ego about that and say, I'm not going to cast this person even if they did something better than what I expected. I think a really good director just steals that, steals the idea or steals the actor and kind of uses that actor. And, I think a thing I run into with student directors is they write something and they think about filming something, and then they become so completely married to that idea that when they go into the casting process, it's very hard because they have an idea in their head very specifically about what they want. And I think what you want to do as a filmmaker, just in general, is to be very open to this process, because you're going to get more out of it if you are very open to it. And there's going to be things that happen in the casting that are going to inform your film, inform your projects. And the best projects are going to be kind of a little bit from each person, right? Collaborating on something. The way, I think this was a great idea for us to do this, because I don't think you always see each other in this kind of context where it's a very general casting, but we're going to give the actors an opportunity with the script to work on something that's pretty generic. So really it is about what the actors bring to the script. And because we have a lot of you, we're going to operate very quickly. And how we're going to run it is, I'm going to bring 2 people in at a time. They're going to read the script together, and the filmmakers, what I'm going to do initially is run this how I would run a normal casting session, which is I'll do a tiny interview with the actors, so you get a little sense of their personality, of who they are, and then I'm just going to have them read the script opposite each other, and then I might redirect them a little bit. But the scripts are very kind of generic, so I want you as a director to just have an open mind about what you're seeing, about the people that you're seeing, and then you have an opportunity to call them back and then work with them, or call them back in 6 months and work with them when the right project comes around. And we just